Welcome to another Real Dad Movement revelation. Our daily revelation today is ego, edging greatness out. And look, it's a funny thing when it comes to ego and ultimately looking at it from both sides of the coin and going, some people believe you should have it. It's important. And maybe they confuse themselves, or we confuse their interpretation of ego as being confidence or belief, or maybe some people see it as arrogance or sarcasm, many different things that ultimately form up ego. But for me, I'm more interested in diving into a line of ego in creating an image or creating a superficial identity in which you're expressing something that's holding you back from an inner greatness, an inner desire to be more, an inner opportunity to have more in your life. Now, here's what I mean, because ego isn't always about the big juice junkie at the gym beating his chest and showing everyone how good he is. I've had plenty of people come to my gym before and not take action or not take part or pull back or withdraw or not have a go and actually implement some effort in what they do because of a fear of failure. Fear of failure is ego. Hesitation, I did an episode on hesitation as well, is failure, is ego. All of these things that lead to ultimately people pulling back, restricting themselves, not growing. If you're in a period of growth, you can still grow with ego, of course, but if you're not in a period of growth, more often than not, it is because of ego. In fact, most of the time when you're not actually expanding and growing and you're withdrawing and pulling back, it's highlighting insecurities or validations or reasons in which you're justifying to yourself the stories, the beliefs, the bullshit, right, wrong, truth or not, facts or not, behind why you are where you are and the decisions that you're making. And ultimately it comes down to choices and taking ownership over those choices. You want to have an ego and be run by that, by some form of image that either in the light of how other people see you or how you see yourself based off how you think other people see you and seeing yourself. It can become a bit of a rabbit hole, can't it, if you dive down and see how far you can go with that one. But it's true. And it's not always about being the big loudmouth either. You're pulling back, you're withdrawing, you're not sure the state in which you're in, you're not attempting things, you're not willing to go, you're not willing to take action, you're not willing to move forward. That comes down to ego. It's your ego. Because of a fear of failure or fear of the unknown, a fear of uncertainty or the uncertainty in itself, the unknown itself, you don't want to lean into it. You don't want to take that step and move forward. You don't want to expose yourself for either the bullshit that you've led up until now, or the lies or the deceit, or the challenges that you face in really being a house of cards on the inside because you haven't built out an internal value system and a belief system of who you are, who you can be in your life. And that just all comes crumbling down like a wet paper bag when it comes to facing something that's out of your comfort zone when you've built up a higher level of hype in which you think or you say you can achieve X, Y, Z, but ultimately you can't. Or you take an initial action in towards something and, oh, there's a bit of resistance, a bit of a pushback here. No, I'm not going to, no thanks, that won't work for me. Now, as fathers, that's a challenging thing to do because when it comes to looking at your life and being a leader for your family, for your children, for your kids, for the missus, for your workers, for your colleagues, yes, there has to be an air, a presence of confidence, self-belief in all that we do. And we do have that. Otherwise, not to be rude, you wouldn't place yourself here on earth anymore, would you? So there's always a level of belief and a level of confidence. It's just, is it matching your desires? And when there's some shift there, where there's a bit of friction in between those two, that's when you'll find that you're not happy with life. Life is no longer sincere for you. It's a state of either superficiality, and if that's even a word, in ego, and what you're progressing and proclaiming and putting forth onto others externally. But on the flip side of that, you're just destroying yourself internally because the framework isn't there. It's not real. It isn't you. Or coming to decision making. I don't want to do this because it might hurt me or this might happen. That's ego. It's holding yourself back. It's justifying that you're okay. You can be comfy again. Let's get in this comfortable spot and let's just settle. I don't know about you, but I'll tell you one thing. If you spoke to many people in their 80s or 90s in retirement homes, nursing homes, or in their own homes, I'm sure they'll be, if their ego still isn't running the show, then I'm sure they'll be letting you know and shedding some light on the if onlys, or I wish I should have, would have, and could have. Because it's this simple. Life is tough. Life is challenging. Life is like a grindstone. It can pulverize or polish you, depending on how you position yourself. And that's what I'm going to talk about in another episode when it comes to pressure and how it makes diamonds, but how it can also destroy you. But it is true. It's a lovely saying. I really enjoy it. Life is like a grindstone. It can pulverize you completely, destroy you, or it can polish you, depending on how you position yourself. And how you position yourself comes down to the internal fire, the internal frameworks, the inner value that you hold with yourself, for yourself, from which you can express a greater version of being, not in ego, in taking action, in liberating yourself and taking ownership, living your truth and being a true leader for yourself. And in turn, you'll be a leader for your kids. In turn, you'll be a leader for the missus, for your family, your workers, your colleagues, your career, the value you add to the world. You'll just be happier. You'll have more fulfillment. Yeah, there's shit moments. We all have them. We've all got a list. But there'll be moments where you're true to you, man. And then you can own that. You can put your hand up. And when you do that, it is liberation. It is free will. It is having control over a sequence of events, which becomes the experiences, which becomes your journey, which is your life. And it'll be gone like that. 2020, 2030, 2040, 2050, here we go. It's around the corner. It'll happen, mate. It will happen. Before you know it, it's all done. And like I've said in other episodes, little eyes are watching. What can we do to be the best we can be for ourselves by doing what we can, the best way we can for our children? And in turn, that reflects on who we are and how we've led them. Hope you enjoy this one. Hit you with another one soon. Cheers.